Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is that on a lady called Kara Nichols. It was actually suggested by Ju, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have. And of course, I will always look into them and let me know if you have any more. Kara Nichols was born on the 20th of May in 1993 to Paul and Julia, and this was in Colorado Springs. She did have two siblings, and she was just a really nice, lovely girl. She was quite social, loved spending time with her family, friends, things like that. She also was known to make friends quite easily. Now, from a young age, Kara had this passion for art, and she was actually really good at drawing too, and just loved to do that. When she got a little bit older though, things started to go a little bit wrong. Well, not necessarily wrong. As she got into like a teenage years, and a lot of teenagers do this, obviously. It happens all the time. I'm not just saying that, this is just what happened in Kara's life. She did actually get in trouble for stealing, and then she ended up changing schools after that, so her parents took her out of that school and placed her somewhere else. I believe in this new school she was struggling. I don't know whether she disliked it or what was going on in the background, but it was said that she, struggled even more. And then adding on to that, her dog passed away, and she really took that hard. And it's something that I know very personally. People who have dogs in their lives, it's one of your family members. You would move heaven and earth for them. So when they pass away, it is absolutely devastating. She did sink into a depression from a number of things. It wasn't just the dog passing away, but that, like I said, that really impacted her, and she did seek help. She started counselling sessions to try and make her feel better, to try and claw herself out of this depression. She was put on some medications, but then apparently the side effects from them started taking a toll on her too. And it was just really bad situation. This is when Kara began using drugs. Her parents then changed her school again, and it seemed like she was quite settled in this school. She completed the entirety of the rest of the school years. She had aspirations and dreams again. She wanted to actually become a model. In 2012, Kara and her parents then moved to Chicago. And once more, Kara felt very unsettled here. She did not like it at all. I don't know the ins and outs as to the reasons behind it. Maybe she just felt really home at the last place and just didn't generally like it at all. But, so I believe she'd actually kicked the drugs prior to that. This is when she started on them again, sadly. Her parents did everything they could for her. They got her into a drug trial. Not a drug trial. A drug rehab facility, but she actually ended up getting kicked out of that, and then she moved back in with her parents, but that wasn't for long. She decided that she didn't want to live in Chicago anymore. As I said, she was very unsettled here. She wanted to go back to the previous place that she lived at. So her parents were staying in Chicago, and she was going to go and move back. It's not what they wanted. They didn't want her to move there alone. However, one of her brothers, or her brother, still lived there. And so she knew, obviously she had friends there, she knew a lot of people there, and she still had family there. And she was an adult at this point, there's not much they can do. They can tell her that they don't want her to go, but at the end of the day, it's her choice, and, she can do what she wants. So what she ended up doing is she ended up moving into this, house share with 3 men, and they got on really well. They all looked out for each other, and it was a good dynamic to be living in, so at least that was a consolation to her parents. She was also very close to her brother as well, and would constantly keep in touch with them. So everything seemed to be going really well for her. She was really trying to spark off her modelling career. Like I said, it's what she really wanted to do, and that's what she was pushing for. She was trying to get a job in modelling. Her roommates really helped her out financially as well. It really made everybody happy when she finally told them that she had managed to get a modelling job. She told her roommate, she told her brother, and everyone was just so happy for her. And she said that this job was in Denver, and then on the 9th of October 2012 is when she was going to get picked up to head out for this modelling job. Little did anybody know that they wouldn't see Kara again, devastatingly. So the days passed by, and Kara does not return home. Her brother has not heard from her, her parents have not heard from her. He didn't know that she'd not gone home, but he just knew that she hadn't contacted him. And that was strange because they spoke quite often. He had tried to call her, but all he got was, you know, her voicemail. By the 11th, he was very worried, and so he decided to go and visit her home, which he shared with all the roommates. He went and spoke to them, and they said that they had not seen her since she left for that modelling job on the 9th. And obviously, that was a huge worry then. She hadn't been on her social media since that day. She also hadn't packed for like a long journey. So as you imagine, if you know you're going to be a few days or whatever, well, for starters, you'd tell your friends and family that. But if she, say, didn't, the very least you'd pack your charger. She had a very professional like makeup kit set, which she would not have left behind. It would have been something that she would have taken if she was doing a modelling job. Her laptop, just things like that, that would have been taken with her that was just still at home. And so because of all this and no sign of her, no contact, no nothing for a good, 3-4 days at this point, he decided that he was going to report her as missing, which he went down to the police station and did. So the police began looking into Kara's case, and what they discovered was she didn't actually have a modelling job. In fact, she had been sort of registered herself as an escort. So, nobody knew about this. Obviously, it was probably to fuel her drug habit, which I believe she was still sadly doing. But nobody knew because they thought that she had a modelling job, and it seems like it wasn't the case. Her parents didn't want this fact to be released, which I can't really blame them, because a lot of people might think differently of her because she's been registered as an escort service. And they apparently got a lot of flack for that, which is just ridiculous. And so the police continued to look into it. They managed to get hold of Kara's phone records, which showed that from 9:58 to 11:08 she had made 8 calls, and the last call that she actually made that night, well, the last call ever, was at 11:58 p.m. Now the police did trace that number and called it on the 8th of May in 2013. When the caller phoned back, it was identified that this was a man who was called Joel Gollendorfer. Apologies if I've said that name wrong. So obviously he was now their main suspect. They managed to speak to him. He said that he had spoke to her several times that night, but he didn't actually ever meet her. But obviously with technology, they managed to track Kara's phone, which they tracked it all the way from her house, which she shared with her roommates, all the way to 9665 Burgess Road. When they go in to see whose property this was, who they tracked her to, and it was actually Joel's parents' house. They lived on this farm area, and that's where it led them to, which is very suspicious since he said that he didn't meet her. Why was Kara going to his parents' house? The police quickly got a warrant, and they went and served that to search the property on the 15th of October, in 2014. They actually brought cadaver dogs with them. Joel walked around, his parents walked around the property, and his mother actually pointed out areas as to where they've buried animals throughout the land. I don't know whether cadaver dogs sniff out animals is it just deceased things? Because surely there's animals and stuff buried everywhere. I thought they just had a scent for human remains, but I don't know. I might be wrong on that one. But yeah, she made it a point of pointing out to all these areas as to where her family pets had been buried. They had horses, they had all sorts. And the police never dug anywhere on the land or anything like that. Obviously, Kara was missing. I'm not sure how far their warrant actually extended as to whether they could dig things up or not, but they never excavated any part of the land. Now, the parents also said that Joel had access to another property, which was just over the land. They spoke to the owners or renters, I'm not sure which of that, and they gave them permission to look around, which they did. The dogs were allowed to search it too. They actually indicated to a shallow grave, which when they excavated that, so they did some excavation, just not on the other property. It was like a shallow grave, big enough for a human, but they didn't find any human remains in there. This is when Joel changed his story, because obviously he said he never met her, and now she's been pinpointed to his parents' house. He said that he did arrange to meet her, but she never turned up. He said that he was heavily involved in the escort service at the time, and that this is why his marriage ended up breaking down. Now, the police did actually try to speak to Joel's wife, but I believe she didn't sort of give any information or anything like that. And so, once again, they were nowhere with the case. Police continued to search for Kara, but they didn't get anywhere. And you've got to think, at this point, she went missing in 2012. So, many years passed, like almost 10 years, and they still had nothing. And then, in February of 2022, police decided to reach out once more to Christina, who was Joel's ex-wife, who they spoke to all them years ago, and she didn't really give them a statement. And this time, she decided that she would give them a statement. And boy, was it a statement. They interviewed her, which I don't know, they mustn't have done originally, which I don't get why. I think the police did fail Kara and her family on this case, to be quite honest. I mean, you'll find out why in a minute. But just they didn't seem to do very much, in my opinion anyway. Because now in this interview, she actually comes forward and says that Joel admitted to her that, well, after his father actually passed away in November of 2014, this is when he admitted to her that he had hired a escort and accidentally killed her. And then he buried her on his parents' farmland. Not only that, he chose a burial site where one of the horses that the family had owned was buried. So the horse was further, I'm guessing, further down, and her remains were a bit further up. This is what she claimed. She also had claims that she believed that his parents knew and were trying to cover up for the son. Obviously, I am not saying whether that's the truth or not, that's just what she thought. And you've got to remember as well, all those years ago, his mother was pointing out where the animals were buried. She had a favourite horse, which she buried on her land, and she had pointed that out to them previously. So now they're getting claims that Kara has been killed and is buried on top of a horse's grave, and so they're thinking that that's the area. So what they do is they contact Joel again, they describe the area of where the horse is buried and ask questions about all that. And that specific location on the land, they described it to him, and he just said that there wasn't even anything there. There was no horse there. It was just like this dry spot on the land. And so that was obviously a lie anyway, because his mother had already told them that there was a horse buried there. So they found this suspicious. They went out, they excavated the site, and guess what they found? I believe about 3 meters down, they found human remains in a plastic bag. Those remains turned out to be that of Kara. Joel was 46 when he was finally arrested. You've got to think this is 10 years on, so he was in his 30s, late 30s, when he actually did this to Kara, and he got away with it for all them years, which is so frustrating. And especially since they were literally on the site. They were at the place where she was last seen, and they just didn't excavate, they didn't do anything, they didn't interview his ex-wife, nothing. And her body was literally there. They was probably walking over it all that time and had no idea and didn't even try to dig it up, which is ludicrous to me, to be honest, but there you go. So Joel was arrested. He was given like £1 million bond or something like that. He was charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. I believe the bond after that was actually revoked as well. And he is still waiting to go on trial. I think that I read recently that he was supposed to go on trial in March of 2023, but they keep in February of 2023, I believe, but I couldn't see anything else on it, so I don't think that's actually happened as of yet. But yeah, that is it. That is Kara after all them years. She was finally found. She was finally found her murderer. I'm glad that he was, you know, finally put in jail after it all, but just frustrated that it took so long. That is the end of this case though. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Kara Nichols. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!